様はお忙しいのだ。要件なら俺が聞こう。フーファイターには選ばれし者のみが所属できる。その頂点に君臨する4人、それが AL4 だ。
Hello, everyone. There we are. Hi. Nice to see you all again. Welcome to the stream. So, today we are playing Vanguard Zero. This is a mobile game developed by Bushiroad, which is a Japanese company. Vanguard is a trading card game, kind of along the lines of Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Magic the Gathering. It is a little less popular than those two, but surprisingly not by much. In Japan it is a very popular game. So I thought I would showcase it for you all today. This is personally my favorite card game. Not necessarily Zero, but the physical game. There are some minor differences between the two. But today we'll focus on this. So, I will quickly explain roughly how the game works before I dive in. So, forgive the loading screen. Let's just have a quick look at this. So, in this game there are grades. You start with a grade 0, and there are cards that go from grade 0 to grade 3, and in some cases grade 4. Each turn, you move up to the next grade of cards. So your main card is your Vanguard, and what that means is that it is kind of the representation of you in the game. When it takes damage, you take damage. So, each turn, you play a card on top of this one that is one grade higher or the same grade. You can only play cards that are your Vanguard's grade or lower when you are playing. So, the goal of the game is to get your opponent to 6 damage. You do this by hitting them with various different cards. And the way the power structure works. So you'll notice each Vanguard, or each card rather, has a power, like 4,000, 7,000, 11,000, etc. When you attack the Vanguard, if your power is greater, you do damage. If you do not, you don't. So the goal of the game is basically to build powerful columns and remove your opponent's cards to be able to hit the Vanguard openly. So, some quick other mechanics to explain before we get in. That's the gist of it. I can explain most of the rest of it later. But, other important mechanics are these grade 2s here. All of the grade 2s effectively have, like, taunt from Magic. Or not Magic, sorry, Hearthstone. Effectively, all of these are blockers. The opponent has to destroy these before they can attack your Vanguard. You have 2 columns beside your Vanguard column. These can have other rear guards that can also attack the Vanguard or your opponent's rear guards. So if grade 2s are in your columns, in the front row, they have to be destroyed before your opponent can attack the Vanguard. Now, the little symbols in the top right of the grade 3s are called triggers. When you attack, or when you are hit, you do a check. You check the top of your deck. If one of these triggers is there, an effect occurs. My decks typically only run the red and green ones, so I will explain those. A red trigger means that I can give power, 5,000 power, to any of my units, and I draw a card. The green ones let me heal, so I put 5,000 power, all of the triggers give power. And then after that, if I am at the same amount of damage or more than my opponent, I heal. So, I believe that is the gist of the game. I can kind of explain the rest of it as we go. But some quick highlights of this first deck we're going to run, Revengers. It is called that because most of the cards have the keyword Revenger right here. So, most important cards. This one, Blaster Dark Revenger. So when it's placed, I can counterblast, which I will explain later, to retire a rearguard, so I can get rid of their blockers by playing that. This card allows me to counterblast to call a grade 1 or less to the same column. So if I need more power, generally, I can use this card to get more rearguards. This card here has Limit Break. When I'm at 4 or more damage, this effect triggers. So when wrote upon, so when I play a card over this one as my Vanguard, my new Vanguard gets 10,000 power until end of turn. Then I call a grade 2 or less card from my deck, and that unit gets 5,000 extra power until end of turn. So typically, the way this is going to work is I'm going to ride over that, finding this to remove one of their rearguards. And I potentially may have another one in my hand to retire their other blocker to swing in at the Vanguard 3 times. That is most of the lines of play in this deck. Also, this guy here, when the Blaster Dark Revenger is placed in the same column as this unit, I countercharge, which I will also explain. So, let's go ahead and get started. This is a relatively new account. I've still been kind of working on it a little bit, so it's not high rank or anything. Whoops. Fight button. Still getting used to the English language a little bit. Human languages on a whole are a lot different than the languages from my home planet. In that, perhaps I will explain a little bit another time. We don't necessarily have a language, a spoken language. So this is all very new for me. But let's get started. I will try not to explain too much about the actual decks that I'm playing against until I've given a basic overview of how the game works. So I'm going second. You cannot attack on your first turn. Okay, so typically when you start a game, you want to have a grade 1, 2, and 3 to make sure you can consistently move up a grade every single turn. However, I do not want this grade 3, so I'm going to roll the dice a little bit and hopefully get the one I want. There we go. This is the one I want. So, my opponent will go first. They draw a card, and then they ride, which is the term for going over a grade with your Vanguard. So he's just doing his thing. I will explain more later, but we'll just focus on the primary basics for now. So you'll notice there are 3 columns. My Vanguard is in the middle, and then there are 2 side columns. They effectively just act as other ways to attack. So turn 1, I want to keep this so that I have it for later, so I'm going to use this card. Most starters have an effect that allows them to be called to any circle afterward, and they usually have a skill on them. I could call this to a rearguard circle and attack with it, but I think I won't, just in case my opponent attacks it. When your opponent attacks a rearguard, not a Vanguard, just the rearguard, if its power is greater, the rearguard will be removed from the game. This card has an effect that I would really like to keep, so I don't want to risk attacking with it. And there was an example of a check right there. And he will hit me right now, so I can show you again. So he does a check when his Vanguard attacks. There's no trigger. I do a check. No trigger, so it just goes to the damage. Now we'll do the same thing. Rearguards do not do a check. And damage check, no trigger, and there goes one of my Blaster Darks. That is not ideal. So I don't want to use this yet, because I would like to call it with this behind it. So instead I'm going to use this card here. And I actually will do it in that sequence. So now I counterblast. What that means is, you see how I have 2 damage here? Your damage is actually a resource in this game. So I'm going to counterblast, which means I'm going to flip 2 of my damage over to destroy this rearguard. And then this card allows me to countercharge, which means flipping up one of the face down cards. So I now basically got that for half the cost it was supposed to be due to the card in the back. So I will swing in here. And my check revealed a trigger, so I apply power, and I draw a card because it's a draw trigger. Now, grade 1s have the property Boost. When they are in the back, you can attack as a column, and the grade 1 adds its power to the front row. So this 14 becomes 21 with this with the 7k. So he's going to do a damage check. Perfect. Now, speaking of perfect, this card is a perfect guard. Perfect guards basically block an attack that would otherwise make you lose. Like, if you are at 5 damage, and your opponent attacks you for the win, the perfect guard would activate, stopping the attack. So, the meta in this game is mostly to run a lot of draw triggers to try to draw into as many of them as you can. There are two other triggers. One of them is the critical trigger, which adds an extra damage to your Vanguard's attack. The final one is stand, which lets you restand one of your rear guards, like untap, basically. Okay, so I've rolled that one. That's ideal. I will call this one. And this card has, during your turn, it gets 3k in the front. So what I could do is I can call this here. Actually, I will call this here instead. So, I have to remove the grade 2 because it has taunt. Then I have to attack with either my Vanguard or my rear guards here. So if I attack with my Vanguard, I can apply the triggers to this, so the power from triggers over here. That makes the column bigger so that I can hit him again. Grade 3s get to do 2 checks when they attack. It's a special property they have. So, every time they take a damage, the Vanguard's power goes up by 5,000. When they get a trigger, it goes up by another 5,000. So now my 16 here, that would have hit before, does not hit anymore, so I just have to pass my turn. Not to go into it too much, but this deck is mostly a control deck. Like, he is counterblasting 1 to temporarily remove my rear guards. Okay. Okay, so he is giving me the damage. Because now this guy's skill activates because I'm at 4 damage. I heal, which is ideal. So I'm at exactly 4, which is where I want to be. So now when I call this, I get to activate the skill and call my Blaster Dark, which allows me to retire a rear guard. I would have liked to do it with this guy active, but he is currently removed from the game, so there's not much I can do about that. So, we will... I'm at 4 damage, so my opponent could attack and then hit me twice, like destroy my grade 2 and then hit me twice. So I'm going to put out another grade 2, even though I have to remove another card to do it. You can play a card over a card, but the original card is destroyed. So, now I have a wall here, so they can attack, 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 so they only get 1 damage in, unless they get a critical trigger. So then we will push them to 5 damage. Okay, I believe we have seen 2 of their perfect guards, which is very good for us. We get a draw trigger. Very nice. They get a draw trigger as well, but that's okay. The power doesn't matter because we have pushed them with our final attack. So they are at 5 damage now. In order to live with each attack, they need to have one of those perfect guards in their hand. So, what they are most likely going to do is lock up the entire back row. Because this card gives the front row units power for every card that is locked. And it also makes it a little more difficult for me to attack them. Because I'd no longer have boosts. Which means that in order to hit the Vanguard, I need to have cards that are high enough power. They get a draw trigger. Another draw trigger. Wow. You can only have as many triggers as there are grade 3s, so there are 13 triggers in every deck. There goes my perfect guard. Okay. So, effectively, I need to win this turn. So, I can... This guy, thankfully, becomes a 10,000 power unit in the front row. Even though it has boost, it kind of incentivizes putting it in the front row. So, I have another grade 3, which I can call to rear. So, what I can do is, since he has a grade 2, I have to hit that. This guy now hits this. When the perfect guard is activated, this does not get more powered up. So, I have two chances. They have to have gotten both of their other perfect guards into their hand to live. So let's see what happens. Attack with Vanguard first, for fun. The other way they can win is a heal trigger. Let's see if they found all of... Nope, they did not have another. If they have a heal trigger, they can still win. They do heal. Which is very unfortunate. Yes, that's okay. I couldn't have outplayed that. So, if you are at 5 damage, obviously, and you get a heal from your damage, you still heal before the damage takes place. So even though you theoretically were at 6, you're back to 5 after the heal. So effectively, he outlucked me there. It happens sometimes, and while luck is a factor in Vanguard, it is more of a game of risk assessment. Like I said, I was looking at their damage, I was looking at their drop zone to see how many triggers they had, how many perfect guards they had in their thing here, to assess my options and figure out the best way to approach an attack. Because if I saw that there were no perfect guards in the damage, maybe I would have played a little more defensively and took out his rear guards instead. So there are multiple lines of play that are not completely luck-based. So let's go into another game. I want to play with this deck for at least the first 45 minutes or so. And the nice thing about this game is games are relatively short, about 15 minutes. Okay, so we are up against the same general deck, so I can show off a little bit of what it does. So, like I said, I don't want this grade 3. I'm looking for another one, so I'm going to get a little greedy, and I'm going to discard it and hope to draw a better one. I did not. So, if you do not have the grade 3, or the ability to ride into a higher grade, you just stay at that grade. Thankfully, I did get one. Now, my options here are 2 perfect guards, which are nice, and this guy. I really prefer to keep this guy in my hand, but unfortunately, I have to use him to move up a grade, because the perfect guards are too important to get rid of. On your first turn, you cannot attack, so I will end my turn. Now, this clan, which I will explain a little bit after, is called Link Joker. Their main strategy is to temporarily remove cards from the game by locking them. The annoying thing about lock is that you cannot call over locked cards. So it's not even like you could replace the ones that have been temporarily removed if you wanted to. So I got my draw trigger, and I actually drew into another one of the thing I wanted. So I would like this effect to build a column. So I will call this card over to ride it, and then I will use this card's skill. And I'm going to get the counter charger, so that when they remove this card, because it's a blocker, this guy can go there, and I can get the counter charge next turn. So we'll swing in with the Vanguard. No trigger. They get a draw trigger. Unfortunately, that means we cannot hit them anymore, so I simply have to pass my turn. So their card skill locks one of my rear guards, which is a little bit annoying, but not the end of the world. Okay, so they are calling out more units. Most cards have additional effects, like this. Like, if your opponent has a locked card, this unit gets 3,000 extra power. Obviously, if you look at this guy, some cards have a lot of text. But it's not that bad. I get a draw trigger, so I draw another card. Unfortunately, it is a heal. That is not ideal. So, I will ride into this one. And then I'm going to call no defenders this turn. My main goal right now is to simply push them. So I'm going to swing in for 11 here. I should have probably switched these around, but that is okay. So I will swing in. Hopefully there is no trigger. Okay, so there's a perfect guard. So now I will swing in, and if I get a trigger, I will hit them. Because I'm at 14,000 now. But because of that trigger, I push it to 19,000, so the attack does hit. And they get no trigger. I'm in a decent position, because I have 3 of my perfect guards in my hand. This means that they have to swing an additional 3 times in order to defeat me. Now, this is a slightly different win condition for my opponent, using the same clan. They have to counterblast 3 and do something called Persona Blast, which means they discard a card with the same name as their Vanguard. They lock 3 of my rear guards, and it gets a critical and 10,000 power until end of turn. They have to be at limit break 4, and they need to be able to counterblast 3 times. Usually, there's a little bit of a death combo with this deck. If they lock both of my front row, I can no longer attack with my rear guards, which is a problem. So that does not hit. So they're probably going to go for a rear guard. Okay, there we go. So. Okay, that is actually ideal. So the way to play around it is we actually only attack with 2 columns. That way there's nothing to lock here. So we can have a safe way to attack a second time next turn. So we're simply going to go to battle phase, and we are going to attack. And hope for heals too, that would be really nice. No heal there. They get a critical trigger. Unfortunately, after that, we can no longer hit. So we will be taking out one of his rear guards. I think we will go after... This one has a rear guard skill, so we want to get rid of it because it has an effect on the rear guard circle. And then we pass our turn, since we have no more attacks. So it goes stand, draw, ride, your main phase, and then battle phase. As soon as battle phase is over, your turn is done. Okay, so they call the grade 2. They will likely be going for the combo here. Yes. So, unfortunately for them, I still have this column open, which is very nice for me. This attack is going to hurt. This turn will hurt. But it could have been worse. They can attack me here, which will remove one of my perfect guards, because this attack would kill me otherwise. They're called Sentinels. But the community calls them perfect guards. Okay. So now, I will ride over with this card. Then I will call... Let me see here. They have a grade 2, so this is worth doing. I do only get 1 attack if I do that, though. That is okay. I think I will call this and fill my backward rearguard column there. So, let's call this one. Okay. So now we will attack. I only have draws and heals, which means there's no reason not to swing and... Oh. My apologies, my headphones died. Yes, If there are criticals in your deck or stands, it can be better to wait for a later attack to attack with your Vanguard. But for me, I can just apply the power from any rear or to all of my rear guards. So any trigger I get, I just put on my rear guard. My opponent gets a heal trigger, but because he's at less damage than me, he does not heal. So now, my opponent will not be able to kill me, I think, unless he can lock this card, which I do not believe he has the ability to do. So what's going to happen is he will attack, and then my perfect guards will block both of the next attacks. He does heal this time, which is unfortunate, but there's not much I can do about that. Okay, and that ends his turn. So I untap, draw. I will not ride. I'm going to counterblast one to try to find another one of this card. I did not. That is okay, though. So I will use this card's ability, remove this. Realistically, it is not the best play since these are not blockers, but I do pretty much need to end the game this turn, and these are my only blockers, so I will do what I can to try to win here. There is another line of play that could be better. You know what? Yes, I will do that. So this card here I did not explain, but I can retire 3 of my Revenger rearguards to add another copy of it to my hand, because this has a Persona Blast skill. So when I finish my attack, I can retire 3 other Revengers from my battlefield in order to attack again. So I will go here. I'm going to attack with this first. See if there's a perfect card. I will now attack with this. I need a trigger to hit here at all. I did not, but that's okay, because I can now retire all of my other rearguards to ride this other one and get one more attack. So hopefully this attack will defeat them. So we will see if this works. They might have one more perfect guard, and if they do, I will lose. They did, and so I lose one more time. That's okay, though. It was a good attempt. I saw the perfect guard in there, and when I saw they had 2 perfect guards that were discarded, I assumed they did not have the 3rd yet, since there are still 15 or 16 cards in their deck left. And there's the critical trigger, and unfortunately, I do not have a perfect guard, so I will take this. I did not get a heal, so I lose. Link Joker is one of the better archetypes right now. But this deck is also one of the better ones as well, so no excuses. Okay, so we will go ahead and move on to the next one. Oh, one moment. Having some interesting problems. Oh, I will have to switch screens for a moment, so please bear with me. Okay. Much better. Sorry about that, everybody. Oh, I just realized I don't think I changed screens at all anyway. That's okay. Alright, So let's keep moving. I think I want to get one more game in with this deck before we move on. Okay, so we are up against a different clan. This one is called Narukami. The last one was Link Joker. Now, Narukami typically can be another style of control deck, but we'll see what they are before I make bold statements. Okay, so I believe we are up against a card called Vermilion, or Kaiser, or Vanquisher. Could be a couple things. Anyway, so Narukami is an aggressive deck that typically wins by retiring a lot of rear guards. So they have many ways to retire. So we'll go ahead and attack. They don't get a trigger, so we pass the turn. For example, their starter here. When they attack this unit boosted hits the Vanguard, they can counterblast one and put that card under their Vanguard into their soul to retire a grade 1 rearguard. They have cards that count the amount of cards you've retired this turn as well. So lots of retiring. Or removing. This one is, when this unit is placed, one of your opponent's rearguards loses intercept. So basically it loses taunt, if it's a grade 2. They hit their trigger, so they do have enough power to hit me again. I get another trigger, so I draw one more. So I can be aggressive right here, and push them a little bit, but I do not think that is the right decision. So I'm going to call this here. I'm going to build the column. Okay. I have a pretty decent grade 3. This is my finisher, but I would really like that other one, so I'm going to use this skill, Counterblast 1, put it into soul, check top 5. Unfortunately, this was the only grade 3 there, so I have to take it. But that is okay. You know what, we will be a little aggressive. So I have 2 blockers out, but it's because I really want to get 2 attacks in this turn. I get another trigger here, so I will apply the power to my rear guards, because I know this attack is going to hit. And now this one definitely hits. So I've pushed them to 3 damage. However, I have no counterblasts left, and they have not used any of their counterblasts. Okay, this one is a little scary. So Limit Break 4, when they ride another Vanguard on top of it, they get 10,000 power until end of turn and retire one of my front row rear guards. Unfortunately, the card they will ride over that cares about things being retired, so they will get a sort of wombo combo, I believe you call it, of effects. So they're going to retire a rear guard now. I'm surprised they used that right now. They must want to push me a little faster. I get a trigger, and it's a perfect card. I will take that. So he needs a trigger here in order to hit me. And not only that, it is a critical trigger, so I will be taking 2 damage here. That is a lot scarier than I was expecting. Maybe a heal? No heals. Okay. And they can retire a grade 1 rearguard here if they so choose. And they will. So unfortunately, due to that critical trigger, I am in a slightly more precarious situation than I would like to be. I'm not out of it, of course, but I did not want to be in this position specifically. So I'm going to go ahead and... I have to play defensively here, so I will be calling both of my blockers. I will retire their blocker, and I will play this here. Okay. So I will swing in with my weakest column first. No trigger, so I can swing again. If I'm lucky, I'll be able to take a perfect guard from them. Unfortunately, I am not that lucky. However, this one gets 3,000 when it attacks a Vanguard, or 4,000, so if I get a trigger here, I will still hit them. I get a heal trigger too, so I heal on top of that, and I get to hit them. If they don't have a perfect guard, they did not have a perfect guard. Let's see if they get a heal. They did not, so they're at 6 damage, and I win. So I guess the way to win there was to be even more aggressive than the aggressive deck. Okay. So, that was a fast game, so I think we will do one more. So, the way that this game is structured is there are clans. Clans are effectively archetypes or styles of play. For example, this one is Angel Feather. This is a very defensive clan. So, I have to kind of be the faster deck in this game. The deck I am playing is something like a mid-range deck. So, as I was saying, there are, I believe, 24 different clans, and all of them do distinctly different things. It's one of the main appeals of this game that I really enjoy. Oh wow, that is a SP, as we call it, which is just special, shiny. So, like I said, each of the clans has a distinctly different style of play, which means that you have 24 different options of what you might enjoy. There's a lot of variety, typically. As long as things are relatively balanced, there is a lot of variety. For instance, my clan, you may have seen with the Dragon card, usually has skills that retire my own rearguards to buff up my Vanguard. So the one where I got to restand it and attack with my Vanguard again. Oh, SP as well, my goodness. I guess since we're at grade 3 very, very quickly. Their starter here basically allows them to skip to grade 3 on their grade 2 turn if they have a certain combination of cards in hand. Angel Feather typically manipulates the damage zone. Their damage zone is a toolbox. So they can pull things out and replace those cards with things from their hand. So let's say this card here was something they wanted in their hand. They usually have cards that put a card from their hand into the damage to take a card from damage and put it into their hand. So if you damage check a lot of grade 2s in that deck, you are very, very likely to be able to use them again, even if they are stuck in the damage. They do a lot of healing too, typically, but this deck I don't believe does too much healing on its own. So unfortunately, I am a grade behind, which hurts a lot. So I will need to play fairly aggressively here. Unfortunately, that is not the card I meant to call, so that one hurts, but that's okay. So I will play my blockers here because I have to. I cannot play grade 3 rearguards unless my Vanguard is grade 3. But I need to be pushing for damage right now to try to catch up. They don't get a trigger from damage, and I think that card is one of, these cards here are just turn this card down, so effectively counterblast this card to give your Vanguard 3,000. That's not that scary, so I think I'm okay. The main downside of running the superior ride decks, so the fast grade 3s, is that typically really quickly here, this is one of the cards that lets you swap out. Oh wow, they had a third one in their hand. So basically, they took the face down one, which effectively was a countercharge. So, I lost my train of thought. But yes, the downside of these ones here is that you need the specific cards to be able to do the quick ride. And you are typically down on cards in your hand because you had to play so many cards to get there. Interesting. Is that a limit break ability? No. So this card is the centerpiece of this deck, even though it is not one of the shinier ones. This one, when it hits the Vanguard, they can counterblast one and put it into the damage zone to call a card from damage zone where it is. So you get an additional attack. Unfortunately, they healed both of their cards, so I'm sort of back to square one. So now I can play both of my grade 3 cards here, and I can go a little bit on the offensive. I'm going to see if I can find another one of these. Perfect. So now I can go on the offensive. So I'm going to attack here and see if I get a trigger. No trigger on the first one. Second check, no trigger. Okay, so this one will be destroying this rear guard here. I was hoping they wouldn't get a draw, but that's okay. So now, they only have 2 cards in hand. So, if they're perfect guards, they don't want to call them. And if they aren't, they are effectively forced to call them to a circle that can make an attack happen. So I'm sort of limiting their resources. Alright. So these cards here put a card face down in your damage zone, and then remove it after the turn ends. The reason for that is certain cards have that limit break thing. It lets you activate the limit break. Unfortunately, that... Okay, never mind. I'm at 3 now. Sorry, I forgot about that. They should have attacked with this first. But if you are at a higher damage because of that, you still heal, and that card is still removed. So it lets you heal over your opponent even faster. So I'm going to call this to get one more blocker. I'm going to get... I think I have to call this one. Simply because I would really need to start building some columns, and I would like some defenders. I'm going to have to call. It is quite rare to be able to heal twice in one game. So I've gotten a little bit unlucky here. Or at least this early into the game. They get a critical trigger, but that's okay because I'm already at 21,000. So I will hit them regardless. Hopefully I start seeing some of my heals at some point. The good news is, even if they eliminate both of my grade 3s, or my grade 2s here, I can call over this to get another grade 2 due to this card's skill. So I'm assuming that final card in hand is most likely a perfect guard, or else they would have called it by now. And we have not seen any perfect guards from here, so their deck is still full of them, I assume. So this will hurt, but it won't kill. That is unfortunate. I did not want to see that. So I can call here and grab myself a grade 2. And I will grab the one that retires. And I will activate the skill in either order, it does not matter. And now I will destroy their defender. I really wish I had another attacker, but not much I can do right now. So let's swing in here. No trigger, ideally. No trigger. Okay, there's a perfect card. Swing in here. If they have no trigger, I could potentially... I believe I can end the game here. Because these are all Revengers. So I can attack with my Vanguard. If it's perfect guarded, I can retire all 3 of them to attack one more time. They could also get another heal, but the odds of that are pretty low. So this does hit. There was no perfect guard. Let's see if this... They do heal. My goodness. That is... a little insane. Okay. Well. Unfortunate. Okay. Not much you can do about it. So, I will lose here, most likely, unless I get a random crazy heal myself. It's funny, I don't typically get this poor RNG, but of course, since I am streaming it, this is the time where it happens. So this cannot attack Vanguard without a trigger. Or that. Okay, that works. So they can swing at me. Swing at me one more time. And then that's blocked by the perfect guard. And they just added another perfect guard to hand. Because they used this card to take the perfect guard they had in their damage zone and add it to their hand by putting another card in. So unless I get a heal here, I have lost. But at least you guys got to see Angel Feather. That's actually not a particularly common deck these days. So there's another perfect guard, but I do not have anything for that. So let's see. No heal, so I do lose. That's okay. We're going to move on to the second deck of the day. So, the second deck of the day is actually a deck that we've played a couple times already today. We are going to be playing Link Joker. So, one of the decks was built around this guy here that gave power to the front row when the cards were locked. And the other deck we saw was based around this one that locked 3 of them at the same time and gave a critical. This is not the full build version of this deck, because I'm saving packs to build the one coming out in approximately a week. So, I'm playing a slightly budget one. But I still have most of the key pieces. So we have my 4 perfect guards here. Very important in every deck. Every deck should be playing 4 of their respective perfect guards. Next, we have this guy here. Star Vaders, which are important later. And also definitely a very obvious Star Wars reference. When your opponent's rearguard is locked, it gets 3,000. That stacks. So if you lock multiple rearguards, it stacks up repeatedly. Then you have this one. Now, my starter here is a ride chain, so I want to ride specific cards on top of each other to gain bonus effects. So when I ride on top of my starter with this card, I search my top 7 for the grade 2 in the ride chain, or this grade 3. When I ride my grade 2 over that grade 1, I lock one of my opponent's rearguards. So, those are the grade 1s. This one is just, if it boosts a unit with limit break 4, it gains power. So that's okay. So then this one is a good alternative grade 2 ride. So on the Vanguard circle, when it attacks the Vanguard and hits, I lock a rearguard. So if I don't get this one, I want this one. This is just 10k. It doesn't have effects, but it's 10,000, so it's a good number. And this one is 8,000, but when the attack hits a Vanguard, if a card is locked on your opponent's side, I lock another one. So a very good control card. Then finally, you've seen the other 2 main rides, but this is the break ride, as they call it. It's another when rode upon. Those are typically referred to as break ride cards. So when it is rode upon, and I'm at 4 or more damage, I counterblast 1 to have my Vanguard get 10,000 until end of turn. Then I lock 1 rearguard in my opponent's front row and back row. So, that's kind of it. This card here just gets 2,000 extra damage when it attacks a Vanguard. Nothing particularly great. So, let's give this one a shot. I'm sort of trying to climb. There's a rank called Legend, which is not quite like Hearthstone, I believe. Is it Hearthstone that has Legend? Can't remember. But effectively, Legend is where the real competition begins. I have Legend on my main account. However, this is an alternate one that I built specifically for my streaming channel. So, I want to try to get that one up to that rank as well. Okay, so I've got the break ride, which is very good. This is a mirror match. I think this is a mildly awkward mirror match, but we'll see. So this is the one I want to ride on top of my starter, so I'll get to search my top 7 for the grade 3 or the grade 2. I did not find either, so I get the bonus ability of calling this card. That is unfortunate. So I pass my turn since I cannot attack. So they're going to do the same, and they're going to find it, and they got the grade 2. Arguably, it is actually better to find the grade 2 since it's another blocker. They're going to attack. No trigger, but it didn't matter, they can hit me anyway. And I take a damage, no trigger. I get another perfect guard, which is nice. So I get to lock one of their rear guards. The Vanguard attack will almost always hit, so what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to lock this one. That means in order to attack me, they need to be able to hit 10k with one card, which is not actually that easy. Yeah, I don't want to call two grade 1s to the same column, so I will just swing. I heal, because I have more than him, and I take this. They damage check, no trigger. That's an important card in the deck, so I am quite happy with that. They are going to do the same. They're going to lock my back row, I assume, since there are no other rear guards to lock. Okay, so they're playing fairly aggressively. I'm hoping to draw into another grade 3. Because the break ride is nice, but the whole point of it is that I want to ride over it. And they're running critical triggers. Okay, perfect. That's what I want to see. Good. I will ride the break ride. I will call this here. And I do need to play a defensive card, so I will do so. I will attack there. I will attack with my Vanguard. So, the downside of running crits is that with draws, you just get a lot more, well, card draw. When you run crits, you lose access to those resources. So, by destroying his rear guards first, I'm starving him of resources. Oh no. They do not have a grade 3. That is a problem for them. But unfortunately, I have not been getting many grade 2s in hand, so I'm not in a fantastic position. Oh, they are running draw triggers. Okay. I heal. So I do not get the break ride. That is actually quite painful, because I did need that. So unfortunately, it is looking like I'm going to have to make a little bit of an awkward play. I would have preferred to have this in my back row attacking with something else, but I need to destroy and push, so... I get another heal, so I do heal again. Okay, I am in a pretty darn good position. They check another perfect guard. They have not discarded any, so there are 2 total in his deck or hand. Okay, they get the grade 3. So they can push me pretty hard this turn, but I'm not overly concerned. Okay, so it appears as if their strategy is they know that I need to be... Oh. Well, that's quite humorous, actually. They unintentionally gave me what I wanted. So their goal there was they wanted to keep me at 3 damage, so I couldn't activate this effect. Oh my goodness, 4 perfect cards. Ugh, unfortunate, believe it or not. But I will call this here, and I'm going to lock up 2 cards. I'm going to lock up the front, and I'm going to lock up this one. And I'm actually going to lock up 1 more here. I'm going to call this to the front, and then I'm going to swing twice. And because there are 3 or more locked at the start of my battle phase, I also draw a card. Okay, so I will start with my weaker column. Attack. They draw, but that's okay. So if they do not have a perfect guard here, I win. I draw. I have all 4 of my perfect guards, so I'm in a very, very powerful defensive position. So they call their grade 3. So they stand. And they crit. Oh, my goodness. For some reason, my headphones keep turning off. My apologies if you can hear that sound. So they were able to burn through a perfect guard, but that's okay. So I will skip ride this turn, and I'm going to call, and call, and then I can counterblast one to lock up a back row rear guard. I will do that for all of my counterblasts. I'm just going to lock up their entire back row. And one more time. I am out of counterblasts, but I got exactly what I needed. So now I will draw a card and get a ton of power. So now I know for a fact that 2 of the perfect guards are gone, and 1 is in their drop zone. So 2 of these attacks will be hitting, for sure. So I will attack. And they didn't even have 1 perfect guard, so it didn't matter. But you can see how knowing how many PGs are still in their deck or hand could change how you play. Alright, let's go again. That card there on the loading screen was one of the core cards of the deck I mainly play on my main account. I intend to play my main account on this channel, but unfortunately I have not been able to find a good way to stream it. Okay. So now we are up against Dark Irregulars. So this deck, let me just quickly do a mulligan. I like this grade 3, it is not the break ride, but it will do. So I'm thinking that we will simply... Okay, so there are 2 strategies here. We could get rid of 1 and hope we get it, or we could get rid of both of them and hope we get the grade 2 from this card. I'm feeling greedy. Okay, we got grade 2s anyway, so that is okay. So we are now up against Dark Irregulars. So, not the break ride. Unfortunate. Let's see what we can get from here. Nothing. Oh, well, it was definitely a good thing that we got some grade 2s then. So, the cards under your Vanguard are called your soul. So, like, my starter was in my soul when I first played the grade 1. Dark Irregulars is all about filling up your soul. So like, that, for instance, that card is that card that they played here. And that card there. They rest that unit to put the top card of their deck into their soul, so underneath their Vanguard. So what this deck wants to do is have a big, big soul, and based on how many cards are in their soul, they get additional effects. This card is, or their main card, which they will certainly be showing us later, is actually, we know for a fact that it is completely broken, because they actually have nerfed it in the Japanese version of the game already. So it is objectively broken. You'll see how in a second. So we actually get to use this card early. We can swing in here, and because it hit the Vanguard, we can lock this up. This card is actually one of their more important ones, because when their soul has 6 or more, they can put it into their soul to draw 2 cards and put a card from hand into soul, which means that there are certain cards that they want in their soul, and they can put them in there that way, as well as drawing cards. So hopefully those 2 locked cards will make it a little annoying to hit, but we will see. Okay, so they did just soul charge a perfect guard, and one of their perfect guards is in their drop zone, which is good. Ah, I can demonstrate the scary card. This card here. During your turn, if your soul has 15 or more cards, this gets 15,000 power and 2 criticals. And when placed, put 3 cards of the same name as one of your rear guards into your soul from both drop and deck. So, I'm going to actually have to... I need to be very aggressive here. They're at Soul Blast 10. So I need to stop them from being able to add more cards to Soul. So, that doesn't sound so bad. 3 damage on a card is scary, but it's not terrifying. What makes it terrifying is the fact that almost 99% of cards in this meta have Limit Break 4. If you push your opponent to 3 and only swing at them with your Vanguard, you can continuously force them to use Perfect Guards while never giving them their Limit Break ability, which is what their deck is focused around. So you basically turn off their deck. Now, the only real strategy to beat this deck, as it stands currently, is to just out-aggro them. You need to defeat them before they are able to kill you. Okay, so they're at 13. They need to be at 15. They did not make it. When it attacks, they soul charge 1. So they did not make it. But next turn, they will start taking the Perfect Guards out of my hand. You'll note that they'll attack my rear guards now. They won't attack my Vanguard, because they don't want to give me the 4th damage. Oh, they will give me the 4th damage. Okay, I'm not complaining. I will need to play my defensive cards as much as I can. I'm going to hold off on locking this turn. I want them to give me 1 more damage, ideally. So let's push them to... Okay, so I need a trigger here to be able to hit them 1 more time. I would like a trigger so that I can at least force a Perfect Guard. Okay, I did not heal, but I will force a Perfect Guard out of their hand. So I should survive this turn. Oh! Wow, I've never seen anybody go into this one from this. I know you run it. So when this unit attacks, if your soul is 10 or more, and your opponent discards a grade 3 card or greater when activating the Sentinel. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Oh, second heal lift. But that is alright. I actually do conveniently have a grade 3 to discard. And they heal. Oh, that hurts. I do block. Okay. So I'm actually in a pretty powerful position, since I know for a fact that one of their Perfect Guards is gone. I believe they damage checked one of them, and another one is in their soul, so they have 1 more at most. So I will ride skip, call this here, and I'm going to start locking. I don't get to draw a card, but my front row will become a lot more powerful. So let's see if they have that last Perfect Guard in their hand. If they do, I lose. There's not much I can do about it. But let's see. They could also get lucky with a heal. I'm going to attack with my Vanguard first, in hopes that I find my last heal. I do not. They do not heal because they are at lower damage than me at that moment. Let's see if they got their last Perfect Guard. And they did. They found all 4 of their Perfect Guards. So that is a loss for us. So while you did not see the crazy combos that this deck can do that are very painful, it is still a very powerful deck. They have 18 of their cards in their soul. And we did not find our last heal, so we die. But that's okay. It is quite hard climbing at these lower ranks, because you climb 10 at a time, I believe. And when you lose 5. So it is a very, very gradual climb. Whereas at the Legend rank, you gain 30 points when you win and lose 15 when you lose. So it is not nearly as painful. I'm almost there, though. Okay. So this is one more mirror match. Let's see if we can get one of the... Let's see if we can get the break right. I want to keep the Perfect Guard, and I want to grade 1 and 2. Okay, so I missed the... So I missed the grade 3. Let's see if we can draw into one. Or get one from here. We do actually find it. Okay, so it looks like we will be going the big combo route with this deck this time. I can't afford to counterblast at all though, because on the grade 3 turn, I can counterblast 1 to add a copy of it to my hand, so I can use that copy to Persona Blast. And then the actual ability costs 3 counterblasts. So I will need all 4 of them to do my combo. Okay. Unfortunately, there's nothing to lock up, but that is alright. So I think we will just swing in. Because we don't want to give them anything they can lock up. They don't hit a trigger, so good. We're on even footing right now. Exact same path, except they want to go slightly more aggressive than me. They get a draw trigger, which they will give to their rear to make sure it hits, even if I get a trigger. I do not get a trigger. So I'm going to hit 3 unless I get a heal. Oh, and there go 2 of my perfect guards. Unfortunate, but what can you do? So I will call this here, and I will counterblast 1 to add a copy to my hand. And now is when I get a little more on the aggressive. Offensive is the word I was looking for, I believe. So I will attack there. I will swing in with my Vanguard, hopefully get a heal. A draw, I will take it. And then I will swing in with this 21k column. They get a heal, but it does not activate since I am at more damage than them. Okay, so they are playing the same strategy as me. This clan is the newest one, so there are not as many main vanguards as there are in other clans. There are only the 2, but in about a week in the next expansion they release, there is going to be a 3rd archetype added, which is the one I am very much looking forward to. They get a heal. That one hurts. Damage check. No triggers. I've been a little bit unlucky with my triggers in the zone, but that's alright. Okay, so as I mentioned in the other match I played against this deck specifically, this counters this strategy, because I have no way of locking up this rearguard column. But what I'm going to do is, I am actually still going to use the skill, because I just need to. I need to push their damage. And I'm going to use a grade 2 to hopefully defend myself at least a little bit. So I'm going to push them here. Even if they get a trigger, I will still be able to hit them. Okay, they've damage checked a perfect guard. I'm going to hit them for 2 right here. I will draw. I will draw again. And I might, if I could actually, potentially, let's see if they get a trigger. They do get a trigger. I potentially could have pulled a perfect guard away from them. Or, never mind, sorry. I miscounted. So they are now at 5, and they cannot use this column. So we will see what happens here. The ideal situation for me would be if they push me here, I get a draw trigger into the other card, but we'll see. But you see, they win here already, because I have no columns I can use. What I should have done, in hindsight, is I should have moved the column on the right down to the bottom, so that I can at least have a front row rear guard. Unfortunately, I did not, so I will simply attack and most likely concede defeat right here. But let's see what I can do. Maybe I can get a heal. I get a draw, and oh, I draw into the heal. Unfortunate. That actually could have saved me. Oh well. As this is a new account, I'm playing clans I typically do not play, so I'm a little bit inexperienced, but this is generally how these decks should be played. So there goes my Perfect Guard, and then my opponent will swing in for the win. And no heal, so I lose. Okay, we will do one more game with this deck, and then we will move on to my third and final deck with this account. I'm excited for that one because it will be my first time playing it too. Great Nature. So, Great Nature has a very interesting gimmick. Their gimmick is powering up rear guards and then retiring them afterward. So they have very big, heavy swings, and then they remove them afterward. See if we can get the break ride. No dice. You will see. And their theme are, they are academic animals. Much like my snail friend. Let's see what we can find. Okay. So we have a couple options. I think that this game... This game's tricky. Against Great Nature, their front row is powered up, but this is a very all-in strategy, and I don't think I want to do that this game. So I think I will take the grade 2 and use the other grade 3 I already have in my hand. Plus that way I have another trigger in my deck that I wouldn't have had if I took it. I highly encourage any of you to download this game and give it a shot if you like it. There is an anniversary event coming up in about a week that will be very, very good for any new players. So, as I was saying with the retiring, this unit is very important. This cannot be retired. So you can put all of your effects onto that one. Like, for instance, when this unit attacks, you may have another rear guard get 4,000 power, and at the end of the turn retire it. But it can't be retired, so you can stack those effects on and just give it power without it actually needing to sacrifice itself. No triggers. And the retire happens, but it doesn't because of that card's skill. Okay, we got the break ride, so we're in good shape. We're going to lock up this front row. I believe we're going to call, and let's call here too. Let's lock up one more rear guard because we're feeling devious. We're going to lock up their back row. They do not get a trigger, but even if they did, 17 would beat it. And with the lock, we get an extra 3. So we're going to swing again. No trigger, but that's okay. So we've locked up one of their columns because their front row is blocked. And unless they have a 10k vanilla, they won't be able to hit our Vanguard with their Vanguard. Which is what they want to be doing, since you can see they have a critical trigger in their drop zone. So we know they're running critical triggers, and from this we know they're running stand triggers. So this is a very aggressive deck. This one in particular. You can play defensive decks that are Great Nature. But this one in particular is very, very aggressive. Oh, they do have the 10k vanilla. Okay. That is a very good card as well. It's 7,000, but you check the top card, and if it's grade 2 or less, you play it from the top of your deck. So while it doesn't have that much power, it is very, very important. Allows you to plus in decks that don't have draw triggers. And they cannot hit, so they will just pass. We're going to ride the break ride. And we're not going to go too aggressive here. Actually, I have options. I'm going to save my defensive card. I'm going to swing in with a grade 1 to take care of their intercept there. And then I'm just going to attack their Vanguard. I'm going to be very patient. I get a heal trigger. I do heal, but I don't have a third column. And I get another heal, but doesn't matter since I only have 1 damage. I'll push them to 3. No trigger. Unfortunately, I have not been hitting many of my draw triggers, so I am quite low on cards at this point. Let's see if they can ride the Break Ride or not. So most decks have the Break Ride, where when it's rode upon it does something, and then their main Vanguard. But you can just ride the main Vanguard if you want, or if you're not lucky. Okay, so they were extra not lucky. Because you have to run 13 grade 3s, and typically only one of them is your main, and one of them is your Break Ride, you can run 4 copies of any given card, which means 8 cards are ones you want to run out of grade 3s. But because of that, that means that 5 of them are ones that you don't really want to ride, and they just have to be in your deck for deck building reasons. They just rode one of the ones that's not great. But I find it confusing because this one is a much better choice for the Vanguard. In my opinion. They get a critical trigger, which does hurt. I heal, power to Vanguard, and damage check. So they can take out my grade 1 with that last one. Okay, so I will now use my Break Ride skill. I will counterblast 1. And I'm going to lock up some of their rear guards. I'm going to move this forward, I'm going to move this forward, and I'm going to lock their back row because that will let me draw since they have 3 or more locked cards. So let's draw a card and get some power. So let's attack. No trigger and a perfect guard, very nice. I'll attack again. No trigger. Let's see if they've got a perfect guard in hand. If they don't, I might win here. They do have the perfect guard, so the attack is nullified, but I am in a very good position. Since they only have access to 2 columns, and I have 2 guards right now. However, this deck does restand quite a bit, so there is a chance that they'll get through and attack me anyway. Like, many of the cards are give a unit power, stand it, and then retire it. Or their grade 3s are, anyway. Okay, so I think they're just trying to figure out the optimal way to play this out, and I do not blame them. They are not in a fun position. I believe this only stands rear guards. So they get the crit, which I'm sure they would have loved to have hit the Vanguard, but thanks to my locking, they were not able to do so. So my turn continues. I will not ride, obviously. I would like to stay on this one. And I can call to both of my rows here. And now I will spend both of my other counterblasts to lock up their back row and give my front row some power for the attack phase. Okay. Unfortunately, I did not get 3 but for the card draw, but at least I can do this. Now, I know they got a perfect guard in their damage zone, and they've got a perfect guard here. That means 2 of their 3 cards have to be perfect guards for him to win here. So, let's see what we can do. Draw trigger. And I got a perfect guard. Very nice. That might help in case both of those are perfect guards. And wow, another perfect guard. Very nice. Or another card, I mean. But let's see if they win. They do get the heal, but unfortunately for them, because of my power-up from this card, I can still hit them even after the heal. And there's the win. It would have probably been a closer game if they got their main Vanguard, but it was a good showing of that deck anyway. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the third and final deck I have prepared for today. Nubatama. This is a brand new clan. This is actually the newest one in the game. For those of you who do not know, Vanguard 0 is actually based entirely around the pre-rotation version of Vanguard. So the card game physically has an old version and a new version, and there's actually an even newer version coming out. But this game follows the oldest format in the game. So we actually know what all of the cards that are going to be coming out do already. It's just a matter of when they release. So this clan has a funny history because in Vanguard, the card game Vanguard, grade 2s don't have like the taunt. The way it works is that each card has a shield value, and you block from your hand. So when your opponent says, I attack your Vanguard, you look at their number, and you discard cards with shield value to shield it. Nubatama, their gimmick is to remove cards from your hand. So you could see how that would be a problem. So they released, I believe, 2 waves of support for Nubatama, and then pretended that the clan didn't exist. So it was kind of interesting to see what they did to the clan in this game. Most of the cards are the exact same as the TCG, don't get me wrong. But there are some differences. So, let's go ahead and go over the deck. Now, this deck does not have very many ways to draw outside of draw triggers, or plussing at least. So, draws are vital. So we have the 4 perfect guards to start. Then we have this card here. When they attack this unit boosted hits, counterblast 2 to make your opponent discard a card from their hand at the start of their turn. That's before they draw. This one, if your opponent has 3 or more cards in their hand, counterblast 1 and put this into Soul to bind a random card from their hand. After their turn, or after your turn, it goes back from the bind zone to their hand. Bind is just exile for people who play Magic. Like, it exiles a card from their hand. And then you return it from the exile to their hand at the end of the turn. I'll go over why that's important in a bit. And then this is just a vanilla 8,000 power booster. Then we have one of the most important units in the deck. When placed, exile one of your opponent's rear guards, return that card from exile to their hand. Now, you don't actually have to do anything with it in the bind zone. You can actually just use it to just destroy an intercept for free. So it's a very powerful card, and one of the best cards in this deck by far. Then we have 9,000. When your opponent's card is bound, it gets 3,000 till end of turn. And honestly, the other grade 2s aren't really worth running all that much. Like, we're running 4 10,000 vanillas and then generic 9,000s, which are not great. So their grade 2s are a little weak right now, so hopefully their next wave of support will give us some better ones. Then finally, we have the core of the deck. The fun card to pronounce, Shura's Stealth Dragon Kujikiri Kongo, which is the main card. So when wrote upon, your Vanguard gets 10,000 until end of turn, and then bind a random card from the opponent's hand. At the end of the turn, it goes back to their hand, but they also discard a card from their hand at the start of their turn. Then, during your turn, if your opponent has 3 or less cards in their hand, it gets 3,000 passively. So that's just the break ride. The main ride is, when it attacks a Vanguard, limit break 4, counterblast 1 to get 10,000 and bind all of your opponent's rear guards, and return those cards from bind to hand at the end of the turn. So this is the starter's skill, so our starter, as well as the skill on most of our grade 3s. The important one. So when they attack this boost, it hits the Vanguard, Soul Blast 2, so remove 2 cards from the Soul, to put 2 of the cards from their bind into drop. So what we're doing is we're binding cards from their hand and rear guards, and then we're Soul Blasting to remove them from the game, so we get to pick and choose what we want to remove. So for instance, if, let's say, we bind a random card from the opponent's hand, let's say it's their Break Ride, or their main Vanguard, we could choose to Soul Blast to remove it from the game, and if they don't draw another one, they're kind of hooped. So, the starter has that skill, but in case it gets retired from a card's skill, we have these cards that can do it too. And then this one, if your opponent has 4 or more cards in hand, limit break 4, counterblast 1 and discard a card from your hand to gain 10,000 until end of turn and bind 2 cards, and they go back at the end of the turn. And it also has the same skill. Soul Blast 2, Counter Blast 1, do the same thing. So both of our main Vanguard choices are effectively the same. We are not going to be using their first skills very often. It's mostly about that second skill. And lastly, we just have a heal 10,000 when it attacks Vanguard, gets 2,000 extra. We do not want to be riding this. We want to ride this one, and then one of these. If we don't get the break ride, that's okay. This deck is not complete. I'm still working on it. I'm missing exactly 3 cards. Once I have those 3 cards, I am done. But yes, we are running 9 draw and 4 heal, just like the other 2 decks I've been playing today. So let's give it a go. I haven't actually had a chance to play this deck, since I didn't deem it complete enough to run before. But now it's close enough, so I'm willing to give it a shot. Okay, so our first matchup is Link Joker. We are going first. Okay. So we're going to get rid of both of these grade 3s, and we're going to really, really hope that we find one of the ones we want. No dice there, but hopefully we draw into it. Okay, no luck on this turn. This is very, very important, and so is this, though. Because this goes into Soul. This deck does not have a whole lot of ways to Soul Charge, so I think we need this card more than the other. So we're going to ride this one. And we're going to pass turn since we cannot attack first turn. Link Joker is the most popular deck right now because it is considered a bit oppressive. It is not overpowered, but it is quite difficult to beat if you don't know what you're doing. Like, if you do not understand the idea of keeping a column open, you will lose against Link Joker. If they're running that version of the deck. We'll see if they are. Okay, they get a heal, which is okay, because they have no damage, so they don't get to heal. And we'll take a damage. No trigger. Okay. We really need a draw. Okay, there we go. We got a grade 3. We're in the clear. So we only have 1 card. So what we can do is we can save that skill for now. Or we can use it. You know what? Let's use it. So we're going to Counterblast 1, and we're going to bind a random card. That's a PG. Okay, that's interesting. No trigger. So what we can do is we can actually Soul Blast here if we want to remove that PG from the game. I think we're going to do that. So we're going to remove that perfect card from the game. Could have been better, could have been worse. So they're going to lock up my front row, I assume. Yep. I think I got a little greedy there. I think I should have let them keep the PG and just been satisfied with the information I got from that. But we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. Like I said, first time playing this deck myself, so I'm very new to it as well. That's okay, because I wasn't going to be hitting the Vanguard to begin with, I don't think. No trigger, so they won't be able to hit me again. Let's see if I get a draw. No draw trigger, goodness. Bad luck with triggers this game. So we're going to ride the grade 3. And we're going to use this vanilla grade 2 here. I'm okay filling up my columns here. Finally, a draw trigger. Very nice. Not thrilled about the heal, but what can you do? So, I'm fine filling up my front row because we're not pushing them to 4 damage. They can't do the combo yet. And they are a bit card-starved themselves. They did not get a good ride. But unfortunately, we didn't get the break ride, so we're actually not in a great position either. And they can actually draw a card off this skill. When this unit's attack hits, Counterblast 2, draw a card. So they're not in that bad shape. They do have to use 2 of their Counterblasts, though. Which that deck does not want to do, typically. See if they get a draw. No triggers. I am very okay with this. Okay, another heal. I really wish I could have kept those in my hand, but that is okay. Okay. Or in my deck, I mean. But that's alright. So we're going to just go ahead and start swinging. They've only got 1 card in hand, thanks to the perfect card we discarded. Just making sure this doesn't get extra power or anything. So this will be 20,000 when it's boosted. Or it hits a Vanguard. So even if they get a trigger here, we will be able to hit them again. No trigger, but we will hit them again. No trigger again. Man, our opponent is just as unlucky with their triggers as we are, I think. Okay, they got a much, much better Vanguard. They can Counterblast 2 to lock, which they're going to do. Okay, so they have just revealed they have nothing else in their hand. So there's no PG in their hand. So I think discarding that PG was a good call. Okay, they get a draw. And there's another perfect card. So when you drive check, the card that goes in this game, the card goes to the bottom of the deck if it's not triggered. So they have a PG at the bottom of their deck now. So we're going to call the grade 1, or it's grade 2 and the grade 1. We only have 1 card in Soul, so unfortunately we're not going to be able to do the combo again. So we're going to just swing, and then we're going to attack the Vanguard. First check, nothing. Second check, nothing. Let's see what we get. No trigger again. Okay. So we do have a grade 2. Let's see what happens. They could defeat us here, because I don't have an intercept in the other column. Okay, yep, they're going to go for it. So, I need to get a trigger here. Oh, no, they're just going to get rid of my rear guards. Okay. I'm actually not that unhappy with that. Never mind, they get a crit. I believe I just lose here. Because I have drawn 2 of my heal triggers already. I heal, but unfortunately I'm at 4, so I don't actually get the heal effect. And that is the game. Unfortunate. But that is alright. That was game 1. And yeah, I know for the future, I think I need to hold off until I have more cards that I can bind at the same time. So let's go again. Probably Link Joker again. Nope, this is Kagero. So, most of the time, Kagero is about the Vanguard. They have a lot of skills that restand the Vanguard. Okay, this... Okay, I like this. Let's... Okay, we got a grade 3. We're good. So we're going first. We're back in this position. I think we ride this one again. And we call the starter behind, and pass turn. Okay, so they are running the Nouvelle package, which I'm not going to explain it because it is a little complicated, but effectively this is an optimized version of the deck. So this is a pretty powerful deck. So we're going to ride the vanilla grade 2, I think. And we have a couple options here. I think we're going to play this and we're going to attack. Let us see if he's willing to attack the rear guard. Hopefully they do not get a trigger. They do not, so we get to swing in our second time. So we put them to 2. They get a draw. That's okay. Was really hoping to get the break ride, but unfortunately I only have 2 of them right now. I'm hoping for next time I stream this game I will have multiple. I think next week I will be playing Magic or Legends of Runeterra for card game day, but I will be playing Vanguard the next week, and by that point I will most likely have more optimized decks. And then they will take out my rearguard. Unfortunate, but acceptable. They've been getting a lot of triggers, though. Not thrilled, but... Okay, so we're going to do it this way. Going to attack, and if they don't get a trigger, I've got another one. Or if I get a trigger, I can apply here. I do not get a trigger. We have not had good luck with triggers. With this deck, at least. Okay, we've pushed them to 4. Okay, they're running Dragonic Overlord as their main Vanguard. They can counterblast 3, and every time it attacks a rearguard, it restands. So if they're willing to counterblast 3, they can clear my field right now. Okay, they're not going to do that. Please, no triggers. Okay. So they cannot get rid of my rearguard. However, I can get rid of theirs. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to push them. I'm going to bind one of their grade 2s. And... gonna call this in the back. So let's see if they have a... I'm assuming they have a PG, but if they don't, I win on the spot. So let's see what happens. Assuming they don't get a trigger. Or that I get a trigger. Okay, so they do get a trigger, so I need to get a trigger here. But I have not seen any yet, so I feel like it is safe to assume I'll get one. Okay, I get a heal. Apply it to the Vanguard. Hopefully we get a draw. No draw. They do have a PG, but that is a PG that they no longer have access to, so I'm okay with this. They are most likely going to be using the Dragonic Overlord skill to clear my field now, and that will hurt quite a bit. Oh, they are running the end. So, in fact, when the attack hits, they counterblast 2 and Persona Blast, so they discard a card with the same name. And they restand the Vanguard and draw 2 cards. They use their starter skill to counterblast 1 and search for a grade 1, which is going to be a perfect guard. Okay. There's the draw trigger. Hopefully we get a draw trigger here. We do get a draw trigger. It's a perfect guard. Which I would normally say is great, but we do want to be pushing them right now. So I actually would have preferred something different here, believe it or not. Okay. So I believe my only option is to push very, very hard here. So when the attack hits the Vanguard. So, yes, I'm going to push. So I'm going to counterblast to bind a card from their hand. I got the perfect guard. Okay, so there's a chance that I might win right here. If I don't, I will probably lose. But there's a chance. Maybe I could heal, though. That would be nice. I get a draw. Okay. And I draw the heal. In a classic turn of events for me. But we took the perfect guard, which means we have a chance to win here. Ah, they had one more perfect guard. Unfortunate. Yes, they managed to pick off our starter earlier, because we could have actually been able to get rid of their cards, but what can you do? Except they only have the grade 1, which makes me think they drew a second perfect guard. No trigger, please. They did get a trigger, okay. So they will be able to take us out this turn. Because if they didn't get a trigger, they would have only been able to hit Vanguard once, and we have a perfect card. Oh, they actually have the Persona Blast to restand, so never mind. We would have been dead either way. That's okay. If we get a heal by some miracle, then we might win, but... Nope, we find another perfect guard, and that is the game. I'm sad we weren't able to remove cards from their deck, but we haven't been able to get the break right yet. We have time for one more game, so let's hope we can get that break right. Alright, who are we up against? Okay, now we're up against Nova Grappler. Now, this deck has... Their Vanguards typically have consistent ways to restand their rearguard columns. So, the typical way they play is they go... Sorry, I'm just going to quickly... we're going to mull hard for the break ride. Let's see if we can find it. Nope, we get the perfect guard, but that's okay. So what they do is they go Vanguard attack, or rearguard attack. Then they use their Vanguard, and they usually have a skill that lets them restand those two rearguards to give them 5 attacks in one turn. Okay, so I believe this person is playing Perfect Riser, which is very interesting if that's the case. But we'll see. I don't want to call it out until I actually see it. But based on that starter, I think so. They should probably just pass here. Okay. We actually have 2, so I'm willing to put this here. And then we can get greedy. We're gonna get greedy with this one. If they get a trigger, we're kind of hooped, but we'll see. No triggers, so we get the damage in, and even if they get rid of that, that's okay. I'm not that upset. I've not seen that attack effect before. That must be new. Yes, so there's the Perfect Riser. Okay, so they are. So basically, their cards have the word Riser in it. So during their turn, it gets 3,000 for each Riser in the soul, and if it has 4 or more, it gets a crit. So this Nova Grappler deck is more about Risers instead of restanding. So this one cares more about pulling rearguards into the soul to gain a crit. It's the only Nova Grappler deck that's like that? It was one of the earliest ones. I think they kind of changed design direction after this deck. Oh, they did hit the grade 2. That's very good for them. They get a heal, which does hurt. And they might get 2 damage on us this turn. We lose that very powerful grade 2, which is not ideal. They're going to take out the rear guard. Okay. Interesting choice, but definitely not a wrong choice. Okay, maybe they don't have Perfect Riser. Anyway. I'm going to call this out, and I'm going to swing here. No draw trigger, but that's okay. We're going to attack here. Okay. Realistically, I should not be as aggressive with my grade 1s as I am. But things kind of need to happen here because I'm running a Limit Break deck. And Perfect Riser does not care about Limit Break. It can do its thing whenever it wants. So I need to be trying to push him a little bit. Unfortunately, due to healing and my current hand, I don't think I can push them fast enough. But we'll give it a shot. Last game of the day. Let's hopefully get a win. Okay, Battle Riser. And they should have the crit. Yes, they do. This is going to be a little bit painful, but I'm only at 1 damage, so it's not the end of the world. They get another grade 2 with that one. Ooh. Okay. Okay, so they moved their... I think they want a defender for next turn. Okay. And hit me. Okay, draw trigger for the first one. Unfortunate. And a second draw trigger for the second attack. Whew, that is powerful. So I take 2 damage here. No trigger. And a heal. I do heal this time. Honestly, I think I might just dump my hand a little bit. You know what, let's ride this one. We're going to call this, and we're going to call this. Okay, we're going to battle. And we are actually going to force the discard this time, I think. We just need to get... They have a lot of resources in their hand. We need to make them get rid of something. And we're not hitting any of our triggers, which really hurts us. And they're hitting a lot. Which does not help our case. They do have to discard here, so let's see what they get rid of. Yeah, they're almost at the hand limit, actually. So they get rid of a heal trigger. At this point, they can effectively call out an entire field. There's not a whole lot I can do about it. Oh, wow. They're being very aggressive. Okay. There we go. I was wondering what was taking so long. Take a damage. I get a draw. It is another draw, which I would have loved to have on top of the deck, but oh well. They're trying to deny me Limit Break, but what they don't know is that I only have grade 3s in hand, so it really doesn't matter to me all that much. I'm likely not going to survive either way. Well, I mean, I will survive next turn, but I cannot do the effect, so I will just attack the Vanguard. I get a heal. Okay, so that helps me quite a bit. And they get another draw trigger. Goodness. I have drawn almost all of my draw triggers, and they've been getting them. Ooh, that hurts. Looking into the character in the top's red eyes, it's terrifying. I've noticed that humans do not have red eyes typically. Is it rare, or is it just not possible? Might have to look into that one. So they're going to continue doing what they were doing earlier, I believe. They're just going to deny me the Limit Break. Maybe I'll get a draw trigger. I do get a draw trigger. Isn't that lovely? I finally see the break ride in my hand, but it is way too late. You know what? I want to see what happens. I'm going to ride it, and then I'll ride this grade 3 after. They're going to run out of grade 2s eventually, I'm sure. A draw trigger. Okay, there we go. So they're... I don't know why they aren't pushing their advantage. Because I'm slowly but surely starting to recover. Excuse me. They're continuing to do that. But that is a very dangerous choice. Yeah, so they're going to give me the limit break, and they're going to try to take me down this turn. But I have a perfect guard, so I will live. I get a draw again. All but one of their damage checks have been draws, and they heal too. Oh. This has been a rough game. Yes, they are down to only 9 cards in deck. I have 16 after that draw. So they have been getting a lot of draw triggers. I bind a perfect guard. I'm going to call, and I'm going to call. Okay. So let's go ahead and battle. Let's swing in here. We're going to take out the rear guard. Not that it matters all that much. We're going to swing in. No, it's not worth. They only have 1 rear guard left. We get a draw trigger. That's very nice. There goes a PG, which is unfortunate. So when the attack hits the Vanguard, we're going to do this one, or we're going to, do they have cards in their bind zone for the most part? Yeah, well, let's get rid of the PG at least. So we're going to Soul Blast 2 to get rid of that PG. I don't think it is going to matter, but at least we used the ability. Okay, so they discard the heal from their hand. But it doesn't matter because they've been drawing many cards. This will almost certainly be the game. Let me double check. I still have 1 heal left in my deck. So it's possible that I'll survive, but it is very unlikely. But very unlikely is not impossible. So let's see what happens. So they can Counterblast 2 to draw another card if they wanted to. They might as well at this point. Yes, they have drawn a lot of cards, which has made their game a lot simpler, or more straightforward at the very least. Nothing from their drive checks. Let's see if we can get that heal. No heal? No heal. So that is the game, unfortunately. And while that wasn't successful, that deck is interesting. It doesn't seem to be good, but interesting is definitely the word I would use. Alright. Well, that is it for today's stream, but I just want to check one more thing very quickly. Oops, not that one. I have a lot of packs that I would like to open up. Yes, I have 55 packs, and I'm hoping to have more by the time the next set comes out. So, while I might not do a stream, I may do a video of my pack opening. Hope that some people enjoy that. Okay. Well, that is going to conclude today's stream. I hope everybody had fun. I hope you all enjoyed. Feel free to follow me on Twitter at Alan Earthman, and like and subscribe if you enjoyed it. I really appreciate the support, and I hope to continue doing these streams for quite a while. So, once again, I'm Alan Earthman. Thank you very much. Take care.